Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We'd really like to thank everybody who have taken time to join us as we restart our community of practice today. My name is Girly Dyer. I am one of the educators, and this is my partner.
And hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonah. I'm one of the nurse educator from the long-term care and assisted living professional practice team. Great to see everyone. We are taking attendance. If you could please write on the chat box which facility you are joining in. And we would like to know if how many attendants you are with you. Thank you. And in a few minutes, there will be a prompt to ask you to join as a panelist, which means you can unmute and start your video.
Welcome to all our homes. Thank you so much for coming in early as well. I don't know if anybody here knows that we have a YouTube channel. For those of you who already know, that's fantastic. But just to let you know, today we are live streaming on YouTube right now. So Jonah also asked you to join as a panelist. And by doing that, you're giving us consent to show your name, your image, and your voice, or statements that you might have for this live broadcast recording, which will be posted on our YouTube channel.
And if you would like to participate or say something, you can raise your hand. If you're joining by computer, you could click on reactions and find the icon raise hand.
If you're joining on a mobile phone, please do click on the 3 dots that says more on the bottom and then click on raise hand.
And as you join as a panelist, please don't forget to put on your camera because we would like to see your faces.
Welcome, everybody. We should start soon, but in the meantime, we want to acknowledge those who have come, who are here now. Finish Home, 3 Links Care Center, and everybody who's here as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to join us. We're restarting our community of practice now. We had a couple months off. Everybody, I hope you had a wonderful summertime. And it's really great to see you all.
So yeah, as you join as a panelist, please don't forget to turn on your video. And so we could see your face there. For some who have just joined in, please write on the chat box which facility you are joining in. And if you are with someone in attendance, you could write it on the chat box. Thank you.
Again, we'd like to repeat that we are live streaming now on our YouTube channel. It's called the Long-Term Care and Assisted Living Professional Practice Team YouTube channel. After this webinar, we will be sending you a link so that you can have it and you can share it with your team members. As Jonas said, we'd like to invite you to join as a panelist because we'd like for you to be interactive with us today. And it also gives us consent to show your name, your image, your voice, and or any statements that you might have shared with us today, which will be on the live broadcast recording, and we will be posting it on the channel as well.
We will be starting soon. In about 4 minutes, we will start our presentation. Don't forget, you'll be promoted as a panelist, so which means that you can unmute your audio as well as your video. So don't forget to click it. You will see a prompt on your screen to join as a panelist. And as soon as you join, please, if you could turn on your video. Thank you.
Who are with us already. And I think some people might still try to join. Start our webinar at 2:05.
Oh, for some who, yeah, I could see on the chat back that they don't see the prompt. Those ones. Okay.
So Josephine will look after that. Thank you for turning on your videos if you have. If you haven't, it'd be wonderful to see you.
For some who haven't seen the prompt on your screen, yeah, it will take some time. So Josephine is working on to promote the attendees panel.
Hello, Fairhaven. Hello. Louis Breyer, hello.
For some who just joined in, we could still not see your video come. If you could click on your video so we could see your faces.
Thank you. Hello, Tricia Singh. Welcome. Carly Nicholson, welcome. Stephanie Chung, hello. Moises Castro, hello. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Lovely to see your faces. Gail, hello. Nice to see you. Okay. So we'll be starting shortly. And hello, George Pearson Center, Carly and John. Marie Carlson's with us. Bincy George. They're here. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. It's nice to see a good mix of people here. Care staff, leadership, and allied health. Thank you. Thank you for taking your time to join us this afternoon.
Okay. So we will start our webinar, our community of practice. And here we'd like to welcome our esteemed leader, Joanne Tate. Over to you, Joanne.
Thanks, guys. So want to start off our time together here by acknowledging that this meeting is being hosted on the unceded and traditional homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And I remain incredibly blessed to be able to host our time together from these lands. Now, this week is also a very special week, as September 30th is recognized as our National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And as you know, this is a day that commemorates the history and the legacy of residential schools. It's for us to remember the lives that were lost and to honor the healing journey of the survivors, families, and communities. So one thing that I urge us and encourage us is to really use this opportunity in terms of what can we do as individuals? What can we do to advance the reconciliation with Indigenous peoples and to recommit to understanding the truth and our shared history? I encourage you, for some of you who are able to take the day off, to use this day as a really intentional day for personal reflection. And for us, for those of you who have made personal commitments and have already started your various plans and learning plans in terms of what that healing, what that understanding and education can look like, For those of you who have not read the Truth and Reconciliation report yet, this may be a good time to start to understand, where do we start as individuals? How do we start as an organization? Where are we going as a province and beyond? So I share that as we reflect on this week, and in some ways this reflection then moves us into reflecting on our long-term care sector. And while it's been an incredible journey these last 2.5 years, it's now time to check in where we are and see where it is that we want to go ahead. The beauty of having these last 2 years is we have some really practical wisdom that everyone who is part of the community today has experienced. And some of you may call it strategic planning and goal setting. I call it more of a check-in to see where we're going and being able to chart our path ahead. So on your screen, there is a bit of a page in front of you that has our vision that we're starting to pull together based on the voices of people who have been living, visiting, sometimes not visiting, and working in long-term care. And the vision in the center of the page there really highlights the essence of what we are trying to achieve. Why does long-term care exist? Why are we here? And what we're trying to see is, do you connect with this vision? Living meaningfully in community with dignity, connection, and well-being. And underneath this vision, there are a variety of principles that highlight the thinking behind where we came up with this vision based on your collective voice. And some of them will be familiar and some of them will sound a bit strange as we start to bake this, but things like choice. Whether you're a staff member, you're a resident, you're a family member, choice and the ability to have that choice is incredibly valuable and highly important. Well-being starts with each and every one of us. Leadership and leadership presence. Those are two things that we heard loud and clear over these last 2.5 years. And we talk about our environments and wanting them to be thriving, vibrant environments that actually nurture life. Life being each and every one of us, and certainly the people we serve, their families, and our team members. So what I'd like you to do, for those of you who have already been in the chat room and introducing yourselves, and thank you so much for putting your name and how many people are joining you and from where you are in your roles. What I would like you to do, just for the next 30 seconds or so, is reflect on what is important to us. Now I'm asking you to go back up, think about long-term care as a whole, but also your own context. So maybe you're thinking of your home, your site, maybe your neighborhood, maybe some of you are much more intimately involved in a few residents who are in long-term care. What is most important to you? So type in the chat and we'll spend about 30 seconds. What I'm going to do is collect all of those and I will anonymize that information so your information won't be attached to your name. And we're going to use this so that as we continue this work and we map out what's ahead and how we map out this uncharted course, we don't lose sight of what's most important to us as we continue this work. So over the next few months, we are going to be evolving this work, articulating it. You're going to see different iterations, being clear about where we're going, setting up our goals, understanding why this is important to us, and then being able to measure our success, seeing, are we on track? Are we actually making a difference in the people's lives? Are we actually making a difference in retaining our precious staff? Are we actually making a difference in looking into the future and being able to support the populations of those who are going to be coming into our care homes? So I'm going to pause for a moment and I invite everyone who's on this call, if you're near a keyboard, write into the chat room what is most important to you. I love it. I won't read it out so that I don't want to dissuade some of you who are typing as I'm talking right now. Excellent. So thank you for those of you who have contributed into today's chat. And as you have a few more words that you want to share with us in terms of what is important to you, we will continue with our session today. And I have to say, it is just incredibly lovely to be able to see many of you again. We hope to have more sessions like this where we continue to engage and connect with one another as we support one another through these complex times. So thank you very much, team. Over to you.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. It is very good to see all of you. I'm Rachel, one of the educators with the Long-Term Care and Assisted Living Professional Practice team. Thank you so much for joining us today. So the topic that is for today is communication access, building ramps for working with people with aphasia. So we want to give credit to GF Strong and Northern Health Authority because today's content has been adapted from their communication access education that was developed by the speech language pathologist in those two organizations. So let's begin with a short video. Okay, so for our first simulation activity, we are joined live from Fairhaven. So Ruby and Venus and a couple of volunteers are there.
What's doing?
No, you just
Hello, you're up.
Thank you, Rachel. Good afternoon, everyone, and hello from Fairhaven, Vancouver. And we are on site with Lisa and Shital, and they agreed to participate in today's activity. And Lisa will pretend as the care aide, and Shital will be the resident.
That's great. So Shital, we're going to pretend that you recently suffered a stroke, and because you're not able to communicate verbally, you will be using nonverbal ways to get your point across.
Sure.
And you will be following the guidelines, which I think you can see on the screen behind me. So you cannot speak, you cannot write, you can only use your non-dominant hand, you can gesture or draw, and you can only say yes or no, or indicate, sorry, yes or no. Okay? And then Venus, Ruby, could one of you please show Lisa the message that she would like to communicate?
So,
Or sorry, Shital.
Yeah.
The message is Shital. Sorry, playing the resident, and we'll communicate to Lisa.
Okay.
all
So you got
right.
it? Okay, so you're gonna face one another,
Okay.
right? So because you're gonna talk. You can sit down, Lisa. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Lisa and Shital, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you on Zoom, as Shital and Lisa are communicating, I want you to write in the chat what you think the message is. All right. So Shital and Lisa, are you both ready?
Yeah, we are ready.
Awesome. I'm just gonna set my timer for 1 minute. And you have 1 minute starting now.
Hospital, my name is Lisa. I'm helping you. So, what can I help you? You want to go? Okay, where you want to go? Or you want to do something? Okay, what you want to do? Oh, to do some exercise, right? Okay, good. So we help you to go outside to do the exercise, okay? Okay. So what is the problem? Oh, your hand here. Something wrong, right? Okay. Are you pain? Oh, okay, you are pain. So is the waist here pain? Oh, the skin here? Yeah, inside. Oh,
Okay. Time's up. That was a quick 1 minute, wasn't it? Thank you.
Thank you.
yes, well done, Lisa and Shita. Good job. So do you
But
think,
one is missing.
do you think, Lisa, do you think you understand your resident? Yes. So, okay. So the message that she was trying to communicate with Lisa is like, I want to go to my exercise class, but first I need to take a medication for my pain on my wrist. Oh, yes.
Essentially, like
So
it's,
as the resident, what was difficult about that?
it's without communication, it was very hard. Like coordinating things and plus making other person understanding. It was really hard. But I think I able to make it halfway.
Yeah,
I guess
that's a good-
almost. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
As a staff member, what was the difficult part of that?
Maybe if after the result, I know she want to have the medication, but I because that part I concentrate to see the pain. I didn't see the upper part of the gesture, so I didn't recognize what he needs. Yeah. Is there anything that you found it easier? Based on the simple things, it's easy. But if something may be difficult more than 1 or 2 tasks, it's difficult. Yeah.
And plus, I think I was wearing mask to it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more harder
Yeah.
to how to express my feeling. Maybe when I'm in pain, like of course you can see some
You can see
amazing
the-
face. So this way, like you can. So
For the resident, as a resident, what was easy about that?
as a resident, understanding me, it is very important. It's made me much relaxed. Like otherwise, I might if my staff unable to understand me, then it's gonna be really hard for me. Like I might get stressed out, and it's gonna be change my behavior too. So it's basically understanding a resident, which is very important for a staff.
Yeah.
So how did the activity make you feel? Make us more understand. You need to more understand the resident, their history or behavior before. Yeah, then you will know more about them, and then you will know what they need. Yeah.
Any other comments? Anything to share?
No, I think,
You guys did a great job.
thank you. We are not really good actors, but we tried our best.
Thank you, Lisa and Shital. Appreciate the time.
You're welcome.
Back to you, Rachel.
That was really well done. Thank you so much, Chital and Lisa and Ruby and Venus. All right, so for those of you who are on Zoom, I see some nice reactions there, positive reactions. And I saw a couple comments in chat, which come very close to the actual message. So thank you very much. I do want to know, I have a question for you. What were your thoughts as you were watching the activity happen? What were your thoughts? Feel free to type in the chat or raise your hand to speak. Or you can just unmute yourselves in chat. What are your thoughts?
Hi, my name's Trish. I just wanted to say it was kind of like, because I've dealt with aphasic residents before, and I think just having a little bit of knowledge on how to speak, like with close-ended questions, was one thing that I just added in there. Is you could be so much more specific. It was kind of painful watching that for a little while there. Yeah, but I mean, it happens in real life. I mean, these are things people go through. So, I mean, it's a really good exercise, definitely.
Super. Thank you for sharing that, Trish. That's awesome. I'm seeing lots of comments on the chat as well. It takes time to understand, communicate, time pressures, impact their ability to communicate, frustration. Well, lots of comments. Thank you so much. That's great. Lots of comments. Lots of things around frustration, needing patience, empathy. How do you understand what the gesture means to the resident? Cognitive, whether they were cognitive intact or not. Can't rush. Time is everything, hey? Interpretation is different for everybody. And yes, that mask is often a barrier. Thank you so much for your participation there. And one more there, that's great. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna have the panel discussion next. So I'm gonna turn it over to my colleague, Jill.
Hey. Hello, everyone. My name is Jill Wong, and I'm an occupational therapy clinical resource therapist with the long-term care and assisted living professional practice team. I'm excited to introduce our guest speakers today, Clinton and Jillian, who will discuss communication strategies we can use when working with people who have aphasia and other communication barriers. So Clinton is one of our regional practice leads for allied health initiatives on the VCH long-term care and assisted living professional practice team. Clinton is a speech and language pathologist by training. Prior to joining our team, he was the practice leader for speech language pathology at Richmond Hospital and GF Strong Rehab Center. Clinton has worked across different clinical settings, and his primary areas of practice are neurogenic communication and swallowing disorders and brain injury rehab. He's also one of the instructors at the neuroanatomy course offered by the speech language pathology program at UBC. Hi, Clinton.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Jillian O'Toole is a speech language pathologist at George Pearson Center, a long-term care facility that specializes in complex care of residents with acquired brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, and neurodegenerative diseases. Her role focuses on management of communication and swallowing disorders. She's worked with clients with aphasia in long-term care, acute care, rehab settings, and in the community. Jillian is also teaching in the speech language pathology program this year at UBC, coordinating the Aphasia Mentors program, where students meet and learn to interact with people with aphasia. Welcome, Jillian and Clinton. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
So let's get started. Can you tell us, what is aphasia?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having us one more time. And this is such a great topic, and we're, as speech pathologists, by background, of course, we're very excited to share about, what we know about this topic with all of you, because communication is such a critical piece to everything that we just shared earlier about the personhood, about patient-centered, resident-centered care, about respect, and hearing our residents' voices. And when there's a communication challenge, obviously it's much harder to achieve that. So we're happy to be able to speak to everybody about this today. So yeah, so aphasia really it's a language disturbance as a result of typically as a result of any injury to the neurological system behind. And usually it's could be a stroke, could be a head injury. Sometimes it's brain tumor, and in fact sometimes it actually can come with certain forms of dementia as well. well. So it does come up not infrequently in the long-term care settings. And when individuals have a language disturbance, typically we see they have trouble with one or multiple of those things that you see on the screen right now. So it could be affecting their ability to understand how the brain works out the speech signals. It could affect obviously how they come up with the words and put them together into sentences to express themselves. It could also affect their reading and writing as well, to various degrees, depending on the type.
So does every person with aphasia have difficulty with communication?
That really depends. So obviously that depends on a few things. So one thing, it depends on the severity of the condition, how extensive the injury was, but it also depends a little bit on the setup of the communication, if you will. I'm just gonna see if we can move to the next slide over here. Oh, actually, before we actually touch on that, let's actually talk a little bit about what aphasia isn't as well, because we talked about aphasia being the language disturbance. But how is that different from some of the other things that we commonly see in the long-term care setting? So for one thing, when an individual has aphasia, it doesn't mean that they necessarily have a hearing problem. So a lot of folks, including ourselves, sometimes we have this tendency to increase our volume when the other person is struggling a little bit with communication. So that does not necessarily help unless like the individual actually does have some hearing challenges. It's also not quite the same as intellectual impairments either. So you will find that a lot of our individuals with aphasia, they can have very preserved cognition and intellect as well. So which makes it that much more frustrating, right? Like you know what you want to say, but you just can't get that point across. It's actually not also a normal part of aging, because we know sometimes when we witness individuals who are more elderly, has some functional decline, we sometimes just think that, oh, this is just part of aging. Well, when there's a language, when the language function deteriorate to this extent, though, it's actually not part of normal aging. We actually want to help those individuals a little bit more. Yeah, and it's also not quite the same as speech impediments either. So we differentiate it by so speech impediments would be when individuals struggle with the muscle strength or the anatomical structure that formulates speech to make the speech sounds unclear. So these individuals may not have any difficulties with understanding language or piecing words together, reading, writing. They just have a hard time physically articulating speech. Whereas aphasia is more like it's like a software. It's the words are not coming, or the words and sentences are not being processed.
Although the two can occur together.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I can see how that could be very frustrating,
Extreme.
especially in a long-term care environment where a lot of your autonomy is taken away in the first place, and oftentimes the people that who are working with you don't really know you that well to begin with. So it can be very hard to communicate with your caregivers or other people in the long-term care home.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So do they typically everybody who has aphasia have a difficult time with communication?
So going back to what we were talking about, it really depends on the severity of the aphasia, but it also depends on the setup and how the communication is being done, right? So if we can move on to the next slide, thank you. So really, this is just a simple diagram to show how communications can be successful. So for communication, for example, it always takes two people, right? So, and the success of that interactions is really based on the individual's ability to communicate, but also the communication partner's ability to communicate, and the environment that interaction happens in, right? So even though an individual with aphasia may have quite a bit of struggle themselves with expressing themselves or understanding what is being said, the communication part, there's a lot the communication partner can actually do to support that, and which is what we're going to talk about in a second. And also there are things we can modulate in the environment as well to maximize the chance of success with communication.
I'm excited to hear those strategies in a few moments.
Great.
Thank you. So what does that mean then for, like, with all these strategies and communication challenges, what does this mean for the resident, and what does it mean for the caregivers?
So I think for the resident, again, communication is a big way of how we identify ourselves. So when people have a stroke and they potentially have difficulties with communication, they might experience some level of grief and depression. Again, this depends on the awareness. Some people with aphasia don't necessarily have an awareness of their communication difficulties. But when people do have that awareness, they could experience, again, that disconnection, feelings of helplessness, loss of confidence, and this may cause them to kind of disconnect and withdraw from their typical activities. And for caregivers, so a caregiver, especially if it's somebody's partner, they might also kind of experience that sense of loss because they're not communicating with somebody the way that they were used to. So they're going to have to adjust pretty heavily how they're interacting with their loved one. In terms of staff as well, there's sense of time pressure at their jobs. Even for partners, I think partners and communication staff that are there to support them, they might also have a potential for burnout just because of the amount of time and effort that it could take. But I think with learning some of the strategies, I think people will perceive that as a lot easier.
I guess that's why, from the chat, from the exercise that we saw at Fairhaven as well, and from everybody's responses in the chat and in the discussion from Fairhaven, that's why communicating with a person with aphasia is historically known to be really difficult, right? Yeah.
And the time pressure piece, we really want to acknowledge that, especially understanding, with long-term care when everybody's workload is so heavy, and to have to spend because the communication is going to take extra time. So to add that onto everyone's existing workload already, we do know that it's quite challenging. And so hopefully some of the strategies that we talk about today will help overcome some of those challenges a little bit.
Okay, so are you willing to share some of these strategies now with us? What can our audience do to help support communication with people with aphasia?
So there's lots of things that we can do. Again, Clint and I are going to get into one that we're going to mention at the end, but overall, always assume competence until somebody is observed to be having difficulties. We don't want to approach somebody expecting that we know what they're going to be having difficulties with, because that's just going to set us up for a harder time. Being aware of the communication environment, making sure that we have enough time, we have enough space, it's not too loud or crowded, and that the person doesn't feel pressured. Giving everybody their full communicative turn. So trying not to interrupt somebody, even if you find that they're having a difficult time getting their message across. You do maybe need to make sure that you're giving them enough time to understand, giving them enough time to get their message out. Speaking clearly, I know Clinton earlier also said that it's not a hearing loss, so you don't want to be speaking louder, and also slowing down to go too slow doesn't necessarily help people. Just from a language processing point of view, we want to make sure that we're delivering the message as easily to be processed as possible, and sometimes slowing down too much does not help. Narrow down the topic and ask follow-up questions. So you can say, are you talking about pain? Are you talking about a family member? And then structuring your follow-up questions based on that. Asking somebody how they indicate yes and no. Making use of individualized strategies for communication. So if somebody has been followed by a speech and language pathologist and they have an individualized communication book, using pictures and even using keywording, which is the strategy that we're gonna share with you guys today.
Yeah, so just I see that you guys are seeing the 3 categories on the screen here. So yeah, and these strategies are so awesome that we can actually just help group them into these categories a little bit too. So with setting up the environment, like Jillian said, making sure that the room is not too busy, there's no distractions, and making sure that there's good lighting, and find things in your environment that's going to help with that communication, right? Using objects and props to help. If you're asking for preferences, actually show the choices, the actual objects of the choices, point to things in the environment. We always recommend calendar and watches and clocks when we talk about date and time, which are more abstract language concepts. So having those objects to support is great. And then establishing how the residents communicates. I love how Jillian started with just assuming competence, because that's, again, really resonates with that personhood piece. So sometimes our individuals with aphasia, they actually can have a pretty consistent way of expressing yes and no. So knowing how that goes, or are they going to respond with a head nod? Are they able to say yes or no? Just finding some time to investigate that. And sometimes our residents, when they come to long-term care, especially those individuals who have had some speech language pathology service before, sometimes they actually come with some communication tools, or family members are very resourceful, and sometimes they come to our system already with some existing tools that are going really well for them. So it could be something like a letter board, a picture board, keyword board. Some individuals may have a communication device. So just knowing what that is, and then building that into the care plan when residents come into our care homes. And then making sure that we don't think about like the vision and the hearing is actually a huge part of communication, right? So just being able to read. So does the individuals have glasses? Can they actually see me very well? Can they see my face? Do they have their hearing aids? Are their hearing aids working? Are is it whistly? So just making sure that the person's well set up for communication.
And we're not wearing them now, but they also have masks that have clear.
Great.
clear
We can
picture.
actually show. So we now have masks that are that have a window that can be purchased. So for our own and operated homes, this can be purchased on ePro. For our other homes, if you're interested in this product, we can send out some information about getting this product. I'm gonna let you come a little closer to. Oh, I can actually. You know what?
Oh,
So this is what the mask looks like. It's called a Hue mask. I'm going to try to right spot for that. So it's HUMASK. If you want to Google it, you will see pictures of this product. So this product has been approved by our people in charge of PPE. So if you're interested in this product, it's very helpful for individuals who have hearing difficulties and also communication difficulties. Yeah, and last but not least, we have just adjusting our approach, how we're actually going to communicate, and that's the speech strategies. And that's the speech strategies that Jillian touched on earlier. So making sure that individuals have enough time to communicate, making sure that pen and paper are around, and we'll show you why that's helpful in a second, which is the last activity we're going to do. Just drawing pictures, using gesture, like I am doing. I'm pretty bad with. I'm notorious with excessive gestures, I guess. But using gesture is really helpful to help people understand too, provided it's not too distracting. And then writing keywords down, which is our activity, and just making things simpler, but not not telegraphically, just saying one word at a time, which probably is unnecessary. But just speak naturally, but with support.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. So I'm excited to see this keywording exercise that you've got next.
Yeah, so keywording. So we call it keywording, but essentially what it is we want to maximize the chance that our individual with aphasia is able to understand and be able to express what it's on their mind. So because we know that a single modality, if just by listening or just by speaking is difficult, sometimes it's actually helpful to write down keywords of your messages as you're delivering it. It's also helpful to just write down choices for individuals to make a selection. So we're going to show you guys what it looks like in a second. But basically, using keywords was just help ensure that a person is able to understand you. It facilitates communication on their part. It also helps you verify what they're saying, because sometimes individuals with aphasia, they a lot of times actually have some residual ability to express themselves, but so you can kind of get what they're trying to say, but sometimes you're not quite sure. So by writing out the keywords, sometimes it really helps verifies their choices and what they're trying to say. What we also love about keywording is it actually leaves a trail record of the discussion as it goes along, and you can refer back and forth to support the communication if the discussion is a bit lengthier. So what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate two scenarios. One scenario being the care worker is telling the resident and delivering a message, and the care worker will be keywording.
Yeah. So I'll be live keywording, and everybody can watch how I choose words, how I write them down.
So we're going to make sure that our doc cam is in place, that you can actually see it quite well. I think it's there we go. Okay, and I'll keep adjusting it.
Okay,
so
sounds
yeah, or Joe here can help us adjust the angle. Thank you, Joe. Great.
Okay, so I'm going to play the role of the care staff and Clinton is going to play the role of the resident that I'm trying to communicate with.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Sam. How are you?
Mhm, mhm.
So your friend James called today.
Mm,
So he is coming for a visit.
Okay.
So on the phone, he let me know that he's going to be a little bit late today, but he's going to be here at 2 p.m. instead of 12 p.m. So he's not coming at 12, he's coming at 2. Okay.
2.
Okay, so
Okay.
even though he's coming late, he still says that he's going to bring you guys lunch. At 2 o'clock.
2.
So again, because I have it all written out, I can refer back and reconfirm 2 p.m.
Okay.
So it's kind of a, yeah, basically to help deliver a message.
Okay. And the writing, this obviously it can be, if you're really good at drawing actually really helps. It goes away from the language piece, but still be able to, you're still conveying the message. So we can do that. We're going to do the same, but this time we're actually going to role play an interaction. So so in this scenario, I am the recreation therapist, and I am going to inquire about where a resident would like to go on the next community outing. Okay. Okay. Hi, Jillian. So I'm your recreation therapist, and today I want to talk to you about outings. Okay.
Okay.
So where would you like to go? Let's see here. Okay. Okay. So do you mean is it somewhere indoor, inside, or is more somewhere that's outdoors? You're showing me outdoors, so not indoors. You want to go outside. Good choice. So where would you like to go? Outside. Okay. Somewhere a bit further from here. Is that what you were trying to say? Okay, somewhere further. So now we're in Vancouver. We are in Vancouver right now. Do you mean do you want to go somewhere, for example, like north? No, you're shaking your head. Okay, Vancouver, not Vancouver either. You're shaking your head either. Okay, so maybe then if it's not Vancouver, not to the north, not Vancouver, then maybe do we go to Richmond somewhere? Richmond, okay, Richmond somewhere outdoor. Let's see what's there in Richmond. Let me can I take a guess? Okay, somewhere outside. Would it be would it be going to a farm or farm? Okay, you are just, it looks like you want to go have ice cream. Okay, ice cream on a farm? No, not farm. Okay, not farm. But ice cream, did I get that right? Ice cream, okay. Ice cream, great. Good choice before it gets too cold, hey? Okay. I'll take another guess. All right. Would it be, how about this? How about we go to Steveston Village? Steveston Village, that sounds good, hey? Good. Okay, ice cream at Steveston Village then. Perfect. Awesome. So this would be what an interaction can look like with your keywording and with individuals with aphasia. And that's why we always recommend that, you know, pen and paper are handy in the room or at the nursing station, in the dining room, on the dining table, to support. This actually is a great strategy, not limited only to individuals with aphasia. If we think about individuals with hearing difficulties, cognitive challenges, just writing everything down and making that the key points of the discussion very salient could be actually very helpful.
Yeah, and I find it really helpful, especially crossing out options as well. And that helps people kind of visually narrow down their own choices as well. And it kind of supports memory.
And you would also notice that when we try to, when we try to get to what our residents' wishes are, we kind of start with broader questions and then kind of gradually narrow it down to smaller choices, more narrow, more specific choices. So we started with outdoor versus indoor. Oh, it's outdoor. Then we go by geographical locations, and then we narrow down to the municipal, and then we're at. So this is just an example of how sometimes it's still difficult to get to the specifics, but when you know the communication topic, then it gets a little easier.
And another really important thing that Clinton did was to ask if he could make a guess rather than just jumping in and constantly making guesses about what people are trying to say. That can get a little bit frustrating. So making sure that if you would like to make a guess, asking that person if that's okay. Some people might be okay with it, some people might not. They want to take the time to get their message across.
And jumping in is such a natural thing to do. And again, we all do it because that silence, like many of you have said earlier, it's uncomfortable because you feel their frustration. But sometimes that silence is actually very helpful, because when that silence is going on, it's actually time for the residents to process. It's also pacing, and then it gives you time to think about, okay, what should I try next, right? So it's almost like a less is more situation. The more you try to rush through it, the longer it's going to take, and the farther away we're from the target message. Okay, so we have one more scenario that we're going to try with everybody. So we actually invite everybody to, if you have some pen and paper with you, to try to keyword the following message together with us, and we'll see if there are any volunteers who would want to share by holding up the piece of paper after to the screen. So
I'll keyword. We could probably both keyword it and then show how
sure.
it could be different.
Okay, do you want to read out the statement, or
sure.
Okay. All right, so we'll give us a minute for give everybody a minute to grab some paper and pen. It could be pencil. The other thing, is while folks are getting organized, you will see that we're actually using Sharpie. We love Sharpies because it's thicker. It's, again, making the words more salient. We were actually also writing in all caps as well, and not all caps and not cursive. Just trying to see which camera I should be using. Yeah, just writing in all caps and black ink, just making the words very salient and easy to read. Okay, but don't worry about it if you don't have a black Sharpie right now. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read out the message. So everybody try out keywording as I read it out. Your sister called and she is taking you to lunch this Friday at 11:30 a.m. So I'm going to have your lunchtime medication ready for you to go so that you can take it with you for the day.
Okay, we can repeat the message one more time. So the message is, your sister called and she is taking you out for lunch this Friday at 11:30 a.m. I will have your lunchtime medication ready for you to take with you that day.
Okay. Does anybody want to show what they have first before Clinton and I show everybody what we came up with? Or does anyone want to type a few things into the chat?
Oh, there.
Oh,
Mathewson.
Top left corner.
Math. Thank you. I see.
Lunch out Friday, 11:30 a.m. Medication with you.
Perfect.
Take medication with you. Great.
Love the keyword, super simple, key messages all there. Perfect. Sister lunch Friday at 11. I love the symbol. Symbol sometimes is very helpful too. It can take meds.
Anna has PS.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Oh, we've got another.
Danielle's got one.
Sister, 11:30 Friday. I love that everybody got their key pieces, right? Medication. Yeah, the most important piece.
And then
and
Carly
Carly-
Nicholson.
Hold on. Carly Nicholson. Oh, there. And I think Anna had one too.
Nice job,
Carly,
Carly.
sister lunch. Thank you.
Oh, John, not me.
Anna
Good
Good
job,
Carly.
John.
Oh, it was John.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Trisha, your camera's a bit bright. Oh, there we go. I can see it. Yeah. Oh, I love the circles and the check marks. Very good. And double underline. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Trisha. Awesome.
I have a question. At what time would you choose to draw pictures, like in your ice cream at Steveston, you drew an ice cream cone, compared to writing out the words? Because for us, it's simpler and easier if we just write Friday, 11:30 medications. When would you choose to draw pictures or use symbols instead?
It also depends on who you're interacting with. If the person is able to read, then keywording is going to be helpful. But if it's keywording for somebody that isn't able to read, then drawing pictures is going to be really good. Otherwise, either could be good if somebody can read.
So you probably will be able to find that information out, by interacting with your resident, or, when the residents first come in, you get some handover from the previous care team, you kind of get a sense of where the language function is at. And like we were talking about earlier, individuals with aphasia sometimes have quite a bit of difficulty reading as well. So if that is the case, then the picture is going to hopefully really help. Sometimes asking for permission, like when you don't know, you can always actually ask the resident to, then can I just draw some pictures? Don't mind my drawing. Is it okay if I draw? So always ask the residents to, if you don't know, because they can tell you whether it's helping or not too, by a simple gesture or not sometimes. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll even give them the pen if they want to add something.
Yes.
If they want to circle something or cross something off, I find that really helpful as well. And then they feel a bit more actively participating in the conversation as well.
That's actually an excellent point, because some of these strategies are actually strategies that, like, a speech pathologist or occupational therapist, for example, would tell the residents to suggest to the resident that they do when they're struggling so much. But maybe they can draw, maybe they can gesture, maybe they have some residual spelling ability that they can write out the keywords, right? So by you doing this, you're kind of like normalizing the playing field a little bit, so that you two are doing the same thing to make the interaction, the mode of communication more balanced between the communication partners.
Yeah, because typical communication is usually pretty equal on both parts between the two partners, right?
Absolutely.
So doing keywording exercise like this, if it's very one way, it feels like it's more, the person doing the drawing or the writing seems to have more control.
Exactly.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to show maybe mine on the DocuCam first? Okay, so I had something pretty similar to what a lot of people wrote. Lunch, 11:30 a.m., circled Friday, medication. I don't know, looking back at this, I might have changed some of these things, but again, is keywording ever perfect? No. So take it with you. I'll give it to you before, but you have to take it with you. And then we can show Clinton's example where he drew a little bit more pictures.
The other way. So just really quickly drawing up with a handwritten calendar and say Friday, again, using more graphics to support, and then just using a lot of circles, check marks, and then just the lunch bit. And that's my lame cup and fork and knives at the bottom there, but again, it doesn't have to be pretty. And I never really quite got to the end of the message because I was repeating the second part, the statement one more time. But so again, calendar, clock, arms, those are great. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So I know we're approaching the end of our time here. So we have one more slide to show you where we have some of the resources to share with you. So as Rachel mentioned, communication access, this whole communication workshop was based on the modules that were developed first by GF Strong Rehab Center and then later adapted and put on the Learning Hub by Northern Health. So we're very grateful for the speech pathologists for doing that. So we want to share with you. What we talked about today, communication access, Northern Health has developed a module that anybody can take. So on the screen, you see the link to the module. It's just a 1-hour module with more. So what we did today is just a really quick overview of some of the key pieces. But if you want to review this, if you want to take a deeper dive, do it as a group with all your staff at your home, then definitely feel free to do the course together. We always encourage people to do it together, actually, because it's a bit more fun. And because we're talking about communication, if you want to role play or trial something, you have multiple people there to do that. So we actually highly encourage everybody to do it. If you are looking specifically for communication support for a speech from a speech language pathologist, in BC, we do have our nonprofit provincial program called Communication Assistance for Youth and Adults, BC. So Kaya BC for short. So they are a group of provincial speech pathologists who provides communication assistance for individuals who need it. So we touched on picture boards earlier. We talked about communication strategies, communication equipment. So if you feel that you need some help from a speech pathologist for one of your residents who are struggling with communication, definitely feel free to make a referral to communication assistance as well, and they will put you on the wait list, and the speech pathologist will prioritize and address the referral. And then, so we also want to show you this last resource here, just so how to ask yes/no questions efficiently when you're trying to understand what the speech pathologist, what the resident's trying to tell you. So it's just a schematic about what we talked about earlier, starting from broader categories and narrow it down to make the guessing as efficient as possible. So a schematic right there, and so that's accessible to you as well. Any questions? And I'm looking to my colleagues. Feel free to put them in the chat. Great. Thank you. And any stories you would like to share? How everybody find this topic? Any success stories you want to share with us? Your experience? Yes, no templates. It will be available on the website, in the long-term care team website. Yes.
That website.
And the link to the website will be up in a second. Great. Great, awesome. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Nikki.
Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Great session.
Thank you. Awesome.
Oh, do you have any advice for non-English speakers? Somebody asked.
Great. So, good question. That's something that comes up a lot. So interpreter service, first of all, definitely interpreter service, first of all. Figuring out for your site how you will be able to access the interpretation. The other piece is family members, because a lot of the times family members is a great resource. They also have that advantage over all of us, which is the familiarity piece, because not only are they able to interpret, they actually know everything about the residents. So having family members there could be a very good go around with that as well.
If I am using interpretive services, I also ask ahead of time if they are comfortable also doing the same keywording as me, because that can be seen, I guess, sometimes as translation. So
Right.
it could be slightly different.
Yes.
So I just make sure that if I'm doing the interpretive services, I double check ahead of time and just ask if they're comfortable to also write down the same or similar to what I'm writing down.
So therefore, the interpreter would be keywording and translating as in real time as you go through the keywording process.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha.
So if you are using interpreter, I would just give extra time for that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. All right, so we will see you guys next time. So on behalf of the team, thank you again. Thanks everybody again for coming. It's so good to see such a great turnout. You've been amazing. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you all next time.
Thank you.